In this lesson, we're going to use our known multiplication and division facts, so those ones we've already learned in our times tables, and we're going to find related calculation facts and fact families. Now what this means is we can make a number of different calculations from one calculation. So if we take, for example, 2 times 3, we know 2 times 3 equals 6. Therefore, we can also know that 3 times 2 equals 6, and we know that 6 divided by 3 equals 2, and 6 divided by 2 equals 3. However, we can actually use this fact to make even more related multiplication and division facts. And that's what we're going to be exploring today, looking at larger numbers, but still using that baseline of we know our times tables, and we're going to be using and applying them mentally. So now we're going to turn to our textbook and look at our very first question. So our first question is, the bones are shared equally between the dogs. How many bones will each dog get? Now step 1 is to read the question, understand it, and think about what the calculation actually is. And then the second stage of that is going to be what method are you actually going to use yourselves to calculate the answer. For question 2, we've got the dog treats. The dog treats are shared equally between the dogs. How many treats will each dog get? Once again, for question 2, you're thinking about what is the calculation that I'm trying to solve? What operation am I going to use? And then which method are you going to use, which is going to allow you to answer that question most efficiently. So pause the video now, and I want you to try both those problems. So I want you to be trying to solve the bones are shared equally between the dogs. How many bones will each dog get? Using the method of your choice. And B, the dog treats are shared equally between the dogs. How many dog treats will each dog get? So pause the video and give this one a go. Good luck. Now let's take a look at both those questions individually and work it through step by step. So for question 1a, the bones are shared equally between the dogs. How many bones will each dog get? So now what we're going to be thinking about is what is the calculation that we're going to be trying to solve. So in question 1a, we're given the question, the bones are shared equally between the dogs. How many bones will each dog get? Now we know that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bones, and we're going to share those 6 bones equally amongst the 3 dogs to give us our number sentence of 6 divided by 3. Now I'm going to try and represent this using a bar model. So now I'm going to try and represent this using a bar model. So my bar represents the whole amount. And as I'm going to share the whole amount of bones between 3, I'm going to divide my bar into roughly 3 equal parts. And then nice and simply, I'm just going to share out my 6 bones between my 3 dogs. And that means we can see that each dog is going to simply get 2 bones. Now for question 1b, we'll ask the question, the treats are shared equally between the dogs. So how many treats will each dog get? So we know straight away that we're working with 60 dog treats in total, and we're going to share them amongst 3 dogs. So once again, my bar represents the 60, the whole number, and I'm going to share this into 3 different parts. Now I could take 60 counters, 60 dots, 60 items, and share them into 3 containers. However, that's going to take me an awfully long time, so I'm going to try and make this slightly more efficient by using my knowledge of place value. So I'm going to represent my 60, not as 60 ones, but instead as 6 tenths. And now I can share these 6 tens between the 3 dogs. So now we can see that 60 divided by 3 gives me the answer that we can see. So 6 tens divided by 3 gives me 2 tens. So 60 divided by 3 gives me 20. So when we were looking at this question, the treats are shared equally between the dogs. How many treats will each dog get? Well, we know that there's 60 treats, and we're going to share them into 3 groups, which is going to give us 20 treats in each group. And this allows us to look at the pattern that we're starting from. That number family that I was talking about earlier on is starting to show. 6 ones divided by 3 equals 2 ones. And we can use that knowledge to find out 6 tens divided by 3 equals 2 tens. So 60 divided by 3 equals 20. We could even say 6 hundreds divided by 3 equals 2 hundreds. So 600 divided by 3 equals 200. And the pattern will go on and on and on. So moving on to our next question, we can see that we've got some bones, and we're going to share these bones between 4 dogs. So in your textbook, you can see that we've got 12 ones divided by 4 equals something. And on this, what we can simply do is share out the items themselves to work out what the answer is. So I want you to pause the video now, and I want you to find out what the answer is going to be for that. So 12 ones divided by 4 equals how many ones? So how many bones does each dog receive? So let's work this through together. I've got my 4. I'm going to share out my 12 bones between those 4. So I can simply 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So now we've got our idea of our number sentence where I had my 12 bones, I've divided them or shared them into 4. And here we can see our answer. 12 ones divided by 4 equals 3 ones. So 12 divided by 4 must equal 3, and each dog therefore receives 3 bones. Now let's see whether that same idea will work if we make the number slightly larger. And this is when we can look at question 2. And my question to you now is, can you see the connection between 12 ones divided by 4 and our next question, which is going to be 120 dog treats shared between 4 dogs? So can you work out this calculation? Once again, pause the video, have a little think about it. Think about what we already know, and think about the way the problem's being represented on the screen. So pause it and join me back when you're ready to go through the answer. So the first thing you'll notice with the way that I've represented this problem is I've taken my 120 dog treats and turned them into groups of 10. So I've now got 12 lots of 10. Now it's quite a simple process now to follow exactly the same method that I did previously, where I will take each group of 10 and share them equally amongst the 4 bowls. I'll just place these slightly underneath just to make it so that we can see that they're grouped together a little bit more simply. I'm sharing it this way to ensure that I don't make any silly mistakes in my counting. I find that if I try and do it mentally and then move on, that's when I can possibly make a mistake in my counting, where it's not the calculation that I'm wrong with or the method that I'm using, it's simply a mistake I've made as I've gone through it. So here we can see that I have taken my 12 tens, my 120, and shared them amongst the 4 bowls. So we can see initially 12 tens divided by 4 gives me 3 tens, which is the same as saying 120 divided by 4 equals 30, which means each dog gets 30 dog treats altogether. And if we think about how these numbers have worked, we had 12 divided by 4 equals 3. So 12 tens divided by 4 gave me 3 tens, or 120 divided by 4 gives me 30. I could continue it once again. I could go to 12 hundreds divided by 4 to give me 3 hundreds. I could go to 12 thousands divided by 4 to give me 3 thousands. The patterns work. I'm using that first fact that I know, my normal times table and division facts, to enable me to be able to continue this pattern and start making those number families, those fact families, a little bit larger. And what this will allow me to do as we progress through this unit is when I start looking at double-digit numbers multiplied by single-digit numbers and double-digit numbers divided by single-digit numbers. I'm going to be able to use my mental strategies to help me along that route, to be able to use methods more efficiently. And with that, I'm going to ask you to now pause the video, go to your workbook and work through the problems on there. Now, please remember, when you're doing this, use your known facts. So, for example, if I know that 2 times 3 equals 6, I know that 3 times 2 equals 6, 20 times 3 equals 60, 30 times 2 equals 60, 6 divided by 3 equals 2, 6 divided by 2 equals 3, 60 divided by 2 equals 30, 60 divided by 3 gives me 20, and so on. So use those known number facts and slow down while you're doing it. Don't try and rush and miss out a step, because that's when the misconceptions will sneak in and that's where the mistakes will happen. Take your time, think about it logically, and talk yourself through those whole process. I know this, so I can link it to this fact, and then it makes it really clear. And if you need a piece of paper to be drawing your concrete and pictorial models, then definitely do so. Good luck, and I look forward to seeing your answers.